getting the burn down. But we move forward on the Golden Heights, and I think, I'm not sure, but this might be the first time we've gotten to watch Golden Heights without a Mongol pick, as it's already been expended by both sides.
Exactly. We had 3 water hybrid maps in this setup, so to a certain extent, there was a bit of a possibility for the players to flex the civilizations, talk about not just the Mongols, but the English as well, possibly Chinese, even HRE. They went with Mongols in game number 1. Now it is going to be an English versus Chinese game. Chinese in the hands of Kasva, not something that you see every day. When you look at the Chinese civilization, Kasva is not the player that you normally associate with this.
Okay, Kasva might have to back up here.
Uh-oh.
You have scouting advantage. You now know what's coming your way. It's 5 villages. It sucks, but you have to leave. Like, you've been scouted, and he knows.
I am without words here. Kasva has to run. He could lose the game in 20 seconds here if he loses these villagers. And the crazy thing is that State is going to have a dock up over here, as you see. So there's going to be a great use for these villagers. Actually, a much better use for them here than what they would have back at home. Because now you can send them to Shorefish, which is just one of the best, if not the best, sources of food right now for those villagers to work on.
And this is the type of broken opening that I was waiting to see out of the English. Like, make no mistake about it. This might actually, by day number 2 of round 2, become the most banned civ. It is infuriating the way it plays in the opening, and I think most players are kind of sick of the way it plays in the late game, right? Because English can be so dominant there. But this type of opening is volatile. Water hybrid maps where you have to play for a shared pond, right? I'm thinking things like Kawasan will come to mind as well. You get annihilated because it used to be, if you were to push 5 villages like this at the start, you don't have enough eco to afford villager production at home, right? You get screwed. But with 12 villages to open up with, you can easily afford to send 5 of them away because you've still got over 50% of your economy at home gathering.
Exactly. And your walking time, the time you spend not gathering resources, is offset by the fact that now you have access to Shorefish, which is just a great source of food. So really, there is not even a massive level of inefficiency in sending out 5 villagers to the front line to do this.
I wonder if, like, because I think, like, some people really get hurt by this play, and I get it. Like, it is really infuriating. I don't think it matters right now in, like, standard because 6 villages, but, like, maybe a nerf to this would be that if you don't have the, like, an outpost or TC nearby, you do less damage, so it can still be used defensively. But get more build than China, folks. I challenge you. It looks like State moved away with the scout, was not able to intercept immediately. And because it's only villagers, State now has a hard choice to make. Torches out or fishing nets?
Oh, this is an interesting one indeed. Kasva gets the dock up. Clutch play by the Chinese building those buildings faster. If this was a different civilization, that dock isn't going up, but Kasva gets away with this. Still though, he wasn't on Shorefish the whole time. He was dancing around with those 2 villagers for almost 3 minutes. So it's not like his start was spectacular by any means, and you would probably expect State to beat him to Feudal Age, and then fighting on water could be a challenge. Although as I'm saying that, looks like Kasva actually will have a pretty nice and competitive Feudal Age timing, might actually have a faster one than State.
The State had idle more villages out there, right? But now that they're there, it's a superior gathering rate, because if you've got sheep in this situation, you know, you've got the supervising of the Chinese official. You have to add in an extra 20%. So 0.75, add an extra 20%. You're at the gathering rate of a boar. Shoreline fish are even better than that, right? It's 1 food as opposed to 0.9, which is being got here. So, like, overall, like, long-term, having all those villages out there is still better for State. But short-term, Kasva should be able to manipulate the idle time to his advantage.
Indeed, there's going to be a tower coming up here for State to try and shut down the fishing eco. Notably, Kasva is taking shorefish over here, not even deep fish. His dock is just so far away. So he feels like it's more efficient to use the fishing ships on shorefish. Now, we have to state that fishing ships got a buff when it comes to gathering shorefish. So they're not as bad as they used to be, but still, the more optimal choice would be probably the deep fish. But given the distance, Kasva chooses to go for the shorefish.
So we have to State, not Kasva.
Yeah.
Got it.
Pun intended.
There we go. But like, so to your point, it used to be shoreline fish was 0.63 and it got buffed to 0.7. And deep water fish got nerfed from 1 to 0.9. So they're a lot closer. The whole goal was to give a recovery point if you lost central control of a lake or a map like Medi. I think it kind of like ticked the right box. I think it was a good play. And
Kasva coming in crazy. Now that is not something that State expected. That is just such a lovely demo, and now a second one could sink the fishing ships.
No. The first one, yeah, 50 health unit. But he needs double demo ship to kill these now. State will get an opportunity to react, but my reaction kind of says it all. 5 villagers down just like that. State with that big idle time in conjunction with what just happened there. The fact that you're also eventually probably going to be up against Song Dynasty means that Kasva should be able to eke out an eco lead in the next minute or two, in fact. Especially if
And
he
here
just
it
lines
goes.
the demos.
State is not looking.
Peace! Yo, State, is it bedtime yet? Because it looks like Kasva's trying to put you to sleep.
Oh my goodness,
Permanently.
this was just such a magnificent use of the demos by Kasva. State wasn't looking, he was too focused on land. He was trying to make something happen with some longbows, get some harassment going, but he looks away from the water for a second. It's not even losing the fishing ships that stings. Losing those 5 villagers in such a terrific fashion is what really makes this a happy moment for Kasva.
Bruh, he hasn't even got the excuse he's playing blue so I can't see him on water. You're playing blue, yet still these obnoxious green little dots on the map go ignored. Just a great read there by Kaz. I mean, the cool thing is he could have made that look even more subtle if he was on the fish. It probably would have just been state for, oh, he's fishing as well. But instead, he just gets maximum impact in an unorthodox way. And now, with that northern sneak, he's able to kind of threaten here. He's going to force State to commit more onto the seaside, where he's already at a sheer disadvantage. And if he just draws all attention across to the pond, it means that Kasva gets to just boom up on land for free.
I feel like State is just trying to focus to too many places, failing to do so, because now he's focusing on the water, gets his entire land army cleaned up, including the scouts, so he's going to be deprived of vision. And he's still fighting for the water, but Kasva's more than happy with this. It's not like Kasva has much to lose here. It really was State's pond to lose. Kasva's more than happy just taking those fights, and now focusing on land.
And you need it more if you're State, considering that you lost 5 villagers to get this compared to 1 on the other side. You could think about long-term, I'll just go land, I'll go farm transition. But in the interim, you're at a disadvantage because the Chinese are going to get 20% increase grab on any resource they supervise. It just gives a clear edge to the Chinese. English, in this kind of layering as well, it's not like we're going to go, this is a fast castle build, right? He now has to build enough to protect that lake, which is going to delay any kind of cheesy plays into fast castle night spam. And
now there is the Barbican of the Sun coming in here, so Song Dynasty is going to kick in, eco advantage is going to grow for Kasva. Bit of a risky position, but also a clever one. Kasva saw no more longbows coming out. He lost the horsemen here to the villagers, but he got the intel that there are no more longbows coming. So he can walk out there, secure that, he's going to get the hunt, and look at that, he's moving on to stone. He's going to play 2 TC Song Dynasty over here. Greedy, but he can afford this greed.
We never really talked about those starting spawns. These starting spawns are incredibly exploitative for both players. If you check where the TC is and where the woodlines are, either player could run longbows or Chuge Nu around the TC freely, right? Like there's a nice little route where you're outside town center range. This is important. It means whoever's the aggressor should have the clear edge, and it's why State tried to jump the gun with the early longbows.
He feels like he just tried to distract with the longbows, hit the gold mine on the northern side, and then win the water. But in reality, Kasva wins the water. Now Kasva's got a safe defense, and State doesn't have much on land, neither does Kasva, but that's massively favoring Kasva, given that now he's in Song Dynasty. He's going to get that second town center going soon.
The question is whether State really has eyes on this. He realizes that he's a little bit blind, so he's actually going to build another scout. And if I'm not mistaken, is that out of the TC that he's building it? I think so. I don't think he has the stables at home, so that's kind of pricey, right? You're sacrificing a village production in a situation where you're already going to be behind.
Still, though, he needs vision. He's completely blind on land. He needs to know what Kasva is up to, and he's willing to sacrifice some villager time for that. On the waterfront, it's still a relatively even engagement. Those naval emplacements are really coming in clutch here for State. The more alarming detail I see for State is that he also seems to be thinking about a second TC. He's mining stone more than what he needs for just emplacements.
The one cool thing you can get out of this is if you kind of feel like you're at a similar position eco-wise to the Chinese player, you'll both be 2 TCs. Obviously, the Chinese have a slight edge with the Song Dynasty, so 2.5. But when you crack Castle Age, you can just go White Tower, which not only prevents any aggro if you're being greedy compared to your opponent, but it also allows you to push Knights out in 17 seconds, which is absurd.
Yeah, if only the Chinese had a way to do that as well, right? I think that's the cool detail here for Kasva. If we are seeing comparable castle age times, Kasva can actually match the production of the White Tower.
When was the last time you saw a player supervise the production bonus? I feel like it's very rare outside of like Chuga new players.
About 4 minutes ago when Kasva supervised his stable to get some horsemen out to deal with the archers.
True. But like I never see it for lancers is my point, right? Like I rarely ever see it for lancers. It almost feels like at that stage, maybe it's just kind of like an oversight to a certain extent, but you know how you kind of get in the rhythm, like one guy will tax, these other guys will work my lumber camp, my mill. It kind of feels like it's a play that sometimes gets neglected.
I feel like it's more about the fact that oftentimes you simply don't need to. You see the barracks being supervised by palace guards because you need a timing on that. But here in this case, I feel like you will have to supervise your stables because, as you said, if you don't, you'll get flooded by knights using the White Tower.
I agree. It's just, it's... Good.
No, I'm just thinking that if I look at Kasva's food bank, if he had a little bit more gold to work with, he could actually beat State to Castle Age by a massive margin.
Yeah. Well, State's going to be delayed anyway, right? Because, you know, he's kind of fighting tooth and nail. He's investing into more naval to kind of keep control of the pond. And on top of that, like, because he's going potentially for a second TC, that's even more villager production, which slows down your timing, right? We already see that Kasva's past that awkward phase of this costs a lot of food, right? He can easily afford to just continue with double TC and now just fixate on the gold. So I'm actually expecting Kasva to be ahead into Castle Age by probably almost a minute.
And that's going to be painful, because if Kasva beats State to Castle Age, she's going to open Palace Guards. If State was the faster one, you would be hesitant to go Palace Guards, especially with the White Tower having the chance to just pop out Knights against them. But I feel like if Kasva beats State to Castle, Palace Guards are the way to go. Flood the base of State, hit that exposed hunt to the south, hit that exposed expansion town center, and you might even be able to deny Castle Age from State.
State right now. If he times this right, oh my... You sneaky goose. Plebs like us, like me anyway, might not always remember the exact range vision-wise for the TCs, but State knew. He snuck right around the backside, and that's going to force a lot of idle time. Kasva was just beginning the tech up. He will do it on the eastern front, so less likely to be scouted immediately. But State at least finding some value for this early aggro comp.
I love this Imperial Palace placement. His right flank is exposed, that he knows that that's exactly the direction from which those longbows came in from. He's going to place the Imperial Palace there. He's going to have perfect vision out. He's also going to be able to pop the Imperial Vision. He's going to see any expansions.
Where are they going?
Good question. Great question. I have no answer to that. They're just running for their lives, I presume.
I was checking his stone. I was like, are we getting a keep drop? No, not enough stone. It looks like it was maybe an overclick. They're heading back over now, probably onto the deer. Maybe he was considering playing towards his opponent's deer stack, but I think at this stage that's a bit too aggressive.
Yep.
So we are going to get... I think that is a supervision, so it is going to be happening here. I love that Kasva's doing this. Like I said, I genuinely think that for a lot of players, they tend to just build additional stables. They have a slightly delayed Lancer timing because they value more gold, right? More supervision on their resources. So it's kind of like a trade-off of do you want less stables or more, I guess.
Yeah, Longbow's actually finding a good angle on those villagers, but they'll be cleaned up by the Lancers eventually, especially because they've been detached from the Spearmen. They do have their palings available, but this is gonna be a relatively easy cleanup for Kasva. Concerning detail for him is the fact that his Knight build-up isn't too rapid, and this is buying a lot of time for State.
Yeah, it's all about getting those first few Knights out, right? Which is why he supervises. Ooh. The problem is these spears pinching like that. I mean, this is pricey for Kasva considering the limited food he has. Only really on the berries. And those berries, I don't think you can thread the needle. Maybe there's a thin line you could walk around the longbows to get there. But with so few of them, State probably doesn't want to contest it. Instead, he just wants to get his castle age.
Yeah, this is very much suboptimal for Kasva over here. Look at that. He's going to lose 2 Lancers just cleaning this one up. He is going to clean this up, but this is just a free ticket for State into Castle Age, and that's probably the worst possible scenario for those Lancers, because you really couldn't find a great use for them so far.
Hard onto the gold on the right side of the base, so you can see that Kasva's priority is just mass Lancers. Now, State has a great answer in the meantime. If you're defending, no better civ to be than the English when you have to build spears here, right? Like, we talk about Bass's spears a lot, but English spears are also pretty formidable, that attack speed buffer. One that they'll easily have access to, considering that State did plug the hole in the tree lines with that town center.
Oh, this could be a terrible timing, though. Lancers could get so many villagers here on the White Tower, and they can now engage the Spearmen. Not a lot of Spearmen nearby. And yeah, this is a fight that Kasva can take. He might even see the landmark.
Notice that he keeps stepping back. Like, he's trying to idle further under the TC while the White Tower's built up. These Lancers, they get baited away. Like I said, Vision, maybe gets it, but there's no scout in this area. And that delay is good enough. White Tower will be complete. State will live to fight another day.
Yeah, Kasva didn't see the landmark going up. Do keep in mind that Kasva doesn't have range defense on those knights, so they get picked apart by the town center fire, the keep fire, not even the tower fire, and these are costly casualties for Kasva, getting his entire force wiped out for basically no gain.
Horrible state of affairs for him. He's got a second layer of Lancers coming in, but that reset, it's problematic. And you see that White Tower is a bloody Gatling gun. You can go nowhere near it. It's kind of funny to see the English format their base like this. It's kind of what you usually see from the Chinese, where they layer everything together for protection.
Kasva's gonna be cautious.
Bro, come on.
A lot of those villagers are hurt, and the wolves will just finish them off.
He's playing so many pocket ecos, but this could come with a risk. State is once again replacing the Lost Scout. If he gets out and snoops this, like this eco lead that Kasva has, is incredibly fragile. Like it's not really a secure game just yet. He does have an edge, but never neglect to notice that State still has that fishing working for him. And the deep water fish will last quite a while still.
Yeah, the lucky detail here for Kasva is that State's got no desire to go into Lancers. So for the time being, it's just only only Spearman rather from him. So Kasva can get away with these pocket ecos, and if he does, he can actually propel himself to a pretty decent knight count, and from that point on, he can start probing these resources like he's doing right now. Just sending a couple of knights here to the deer patch, see if State is at home. And so far, State has been playing with a very compact, well-defendable base, but at some point, he's gonna have to start moving out for resources.
Yeah, and great play to actually go into the monastery here. While Kasva has got map control, he's going to want to try to hoover up as much as possible. Meanwhile, State, always with the English. Let me get my walls down and let me dream of a world where Imperial Age exists, because looks like State is choosing to go full total.
I love the new investment from Kasva on the dock. He wants to make sure that State keeps investing into water. Kasva can bail on the water at any time because he has nothing to lose there. Whereas for State, he needs to keep that fishing eco intact because if he loses it, he's going to fall behind even more so economically. So here, Kasva is just going to force State to invest more and more into water while also massacring the villagers back at home. Once again, State is distracted, and that's going to stink him so badly.
He didn't plug the wall either. He's being flanked on the south side, so I think Kasva's getting through on multiple flanks here, and the villagers are completely unguarded. State isn't even reacting to this.
That's terrible. That's absolutely horrible. I think State was actually focusing on a naval battle, and we see that so many times. You focus on the water, you could lose on land, and vice versa. This time around, State, he won the water, but Kasva doesn't care. Kasva is more than happy massacring those villagers, and now he's back.
This is problematic. He got distracted by the south side. He even set up a second line of walls just to ensure it. So Kasva, with his two-pronged assault, gets bang for buck. And now, what the duck out here with the spears. At least some vengeance is going to be found, but there's no denying that eco lead. Kasva is over 20 villages ahead.
Yeah, those spearmen, that's definitely annoying for Kasva. He didn't notice that either. Both players struggling with the identification of all those raids coming in, but still, Kasva's getting way better value because of the higher DPS coming out from those knights.
Just a quick 1-2 tap, right? Like, I don't think we got textiles here for the English player. Kind of unfortunate in this situation. When you see how many villages you've lost, you probably wish you had it. The problem is, like, he knows you need farms now, right? He knows because he's blocking you with these emplacements on the dock sides, you can't just rely on fish. Well, you need to spread out for these farms in a very predictable fashion to the advantage of Kasva.
Yeah, and in the meantime, sure thing, State is doing some raids over here with the spearmen, but there are other pocket ecos as well for Kasva. He still has villagers on hunt, he still has villagers on berries, whereas for State, his entire food eco on land is being shut down, now the gold even.
Now, from an efficiency standpoint, those spearmen have done a better job than the lancers in terms of like their life for kills. But we don't care about efficiency here. We care about mass butchering, right? Even all these villages that survive, just look at those health bars. You look away for a moment, you're going to lose 10 plus more villies.
Oh, and it gets worse than that. Look at that, emergency walls coming in, just making life even more difficult for State, actually. So many villagers falling left and right, and look at that villager kill-death ratio just getting better and better for Kasva. He's got a lot of idols himself, he's being harassed by the spears, but he's losing way less villagers than what State is, and if I'm not mistaken, that's gonna be a very aggressive keep in the face of State.
think State's been playing too much Stronghold. He's making a nice organized castle where you have different areas that you can contain districts in. But in this situation, it's not going to help him too much. As you say, Kasva now going to containment protocol. State forced to react by going into Trebs. But this is going to be a slow and arduous process. He's only one in, and he's still a huge eco disadvantage when you look at the count.
Oh my God, here in a bit of a precarious position. This might not go up with the board being aggroed.
What a play. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I mean, you cannot get more build than China. These spearmen have been doing God's work, but there is no denying the Chinese build speed.
Oh, this was so close. If this was another civilization, this keep wouldn't be going up. Second time in this game that this happens. First time it was the dock for Kasva, barely got it up. And that dock eventually resulted in the demo ship that killed 5 villagers. The Chinese build speed is really coming in clutch here for Kasva.
Yeah, like honestly, anytime says, oh, there's a raid coming in, Chinese castle, I always believe in the Chinese castle. I've seen heinous things. I never bet against it at this phase. You know, he does at least block out additional food, but I don't think this is the end of the world for State. You've still given him enough room to flesh out farms and kind of get online, and you did just sacrifice a lot of villagers to do this.
Yeah, and Kasva lost a lot of eco himself. I'm not exactly sure where they were, aside from the ones that we have seen being butchered on the front line. Maybe those spearmen also got a couple back at home, but despite the fact that it was Kasva massacring villagers for the last 10 minutes, it's essentially even when it comes to the villager kills, and it's an even villager count almost.
I'm telling you, spears are just better raiders, at least from what I'm seeing from State. I mean, this has been phenomenal. Leaving clash with the forces here, just doesn't want to lose that trebuchet. Trebuchet that is idling a decent chunk of Kasva's eco and also affording him more stone in the process. Just a cool way of ensuring that Kasva can't easily follow this up with an additional keep afterwards.
Kasva now switching into the Chukonu. That's actually a great unit to deal with everything that State has right now. And the trebuchet is also trying to focus now some of the Chukonu. State is going to have to pull back. Luckily for him, he's got the white tower to make up for this, and he could actually easily make a very fast tech switch into longbows. He's got the council hall and the white tower.
Wow. We're getting another TC out of State. He sees an opportunity to take the eco lead, and he's not wrong to do so. In fact, it's kind of just a mirroring, right? Because there is that backwards TC from Kasva in the corner. However, State, now that he sees Chukanu, he has two choices. You either go heavy Cav or you go into longbows. Now, Cav can be more flexible, but it's a much slower unit to transition into.
Yeah, now Kasva is turning on the Chinese powerhouse, though, only for the time being. Look at Kasva's food income, 73 per minute. This push feels fearsome, but in reality, little does State know that Kasva is about to run out of juice in a matter of minutes. He's gonna have to make a very hard farm transition, and that's gonna slow him down.
It is underway. Now, at this stage in the game, it's very quick for the Chinese, but it's still a big downtime, and I think State's going to sniff it out. You know, considering how relentless Kasva was with this dive, if it just all of a sudden stops, you start to wonder why. State, on the other hand, he's got infinite food supply, right? He's got 2 farm clusters set up on that backside. I think he might even have a 3rd one underway elsewhere, at which stage, you know, you're pretty content to go ahead with that, right? You can even think about going mass men-at-arms at that phase.
Exactly, we are getting close to the stage where that English farming eco is really starting to kick in. There is still some fishing eco functional as well, despite the fact that we are slowly depleting the deep fish. This is a good fight though for Kasva, still has the Chukonu, plus the Lancers to deal with the men-at-arms. And it's only crossbows from State, those won't stand long against the Chukonu, but they will at least pick off the Lancers.
If he just had a little bit more wood, he could easily go into Mango and catch his opponent off guard. Crossbows with the attack speed, like, not the worst thing if you start a step back, but you can see the chase is just going to be in favor of Kaz. You gotta be careful of that Trebuchet, because, stupidly enough, this ranged unit is surprisingly effective at killing siege.
Yeah, you mentioned wood, and that's actually a big factor now, because Kasva's got most of the map under his control. Whereas for State, I think he's got one more forest to work with on the northern side, as Kasva's gonna castle drop the dock over here. Says no more fishing.
I think he can just trade, like, not trade, he can just drop off at the northern dock, though. Like,
yep.
ultimately, this doesn't stop him.
Well, Kasva's got enough stone for almost 2 more castles, so yeah, bear with me for a second. Yeah, there's the second one coming. Kasva really hates those fishermen.
Is it me, or is this, like, is this overkill at this phase? I feel like there's not really any shoreline fish left, and the deep water have to be almost, like, burned, right? Like, I know they regenerate, but this is a heavy commitment to shut out a little bit of food.
Yeah, I don't even know why he's so relentless committing to this. There is definitely some damage to be done over here, but
Whoa.
for the very same price, he could even just drop a keep kamikaze one on the left side. It's Chinese builders. You pull 25 villagers, State's army is on the right side, keep on the left side is guaranteed to go up, and then State will have no room to expand, could lose villagers to that as well.
That was an ambitious demo ship by State, by the way. He built it, he was like, nuclear ship. Oh, wait. No, yeah, sorry. I'm thinking of the good old days. That doesn't work anymore. So demo ship doesn't really have any value. So sure, the Fission's going to get shut down, but Kasva, you know, he invests 1,600 stone over there. The upside is there's 1,200 stone available via the outcropping. So not the end of the world. And we also have to keep in mind, like, wood. Wood is becoming a limiting factor. So moving out this area isn't that terrible when you consider that, you know, like a third of the wood on the map is in this area.
Exactly, especially because English is one of the more wood-reliant civilizations. In late game, you might actually see, once again, longbows being mixed in. Oftentimes, with the powerful farming eco that they have, they go heavy on the horsemen. So, having lack of wood actually hurts the English pretty badly, much more so than it does for other civilizations, actually.
Well, he's had enough of this castle. It's ramification time. 4 have been built, 4 are on the way. Question mark is whether Kaz can easily hold in this area. You'd think with the Chige noob, somewhat threatening, but the men-at-arms get tickled by that, which is why this is maybe a little bit confusing when you first approach it. Those are not just Chige noob, there are crossbows mixed in by the Chinese. Rams, they can be shredded quite easily by these Chige noobs. Pretty absurd. I don't think he's going to get this castle.
I don't think he's getting this down. Indeed, he's going to have to call a retreat on this one. He probably didn't expect a lot of crossbows to be in there. I'm not sure if he had vision on this, but as you said, it's very difficult to distinguish the Chukonu from the crossbows. And he went in with heavily armored units, got massacred.
I feel like it only really becomes apparent when they start attacking, right? Because they have different reload animations. But when they're running at you like this, it's dumb. I'm just going to say it, right? It's kind of insane that it never got altered. Horsemen now arriving. Great little play there by Kasva just to clean up the Rams. Remember, 250 wood each, and we already have ID'd that State has a wood issue long term. He's finally munching into that northern tree line, but after that, he's dry. That's all he's got.
Yeah, Kasva knows that. He's diving deep, trying to snipe the trebuchet, making sure that the keep stays alive on the front line, idling the gold miners as well. And let's not forget, gold is also an issue for State. That's the only safe gold mine that he has access to, and it's near being depleted.
Not really sure how State puts a defense together anymore. Like, I genuinely think, like, the spearman play was phenomenal, but the moment Chiganu came out, felt like he just didn't have an answer. You know, mass longbows may have been the way to go, but he never got onto that wood line quick enough. And with limited space, you can see how he struggled to actually switch into new production types when he realizes that this is the end of the road. GG does get called. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get a game 3.
What a lovely set so far. State felt very confident in game number 1, partly because most of the action was concentrated at one spot, but I think that the factor that set the two players apart over here was their ability to focus at multiple spots. Kasva was able to distract State on water, get some very good hits on land with the Lancers. Prior to that, distract on land, get a beautiful demo hit on the villagers close to the shore. He was always able to distract State, and State had a bit more difficult time tracking everything that was going on. Eventually resulted in those villager kills, which just kind of crippled his eco beyond minute 15.
Yeah, and that does mean, of course, folks, we get a game 3 between these two players. I think there's a bunch of people begging for it, chanting for it. Come on, Kasva. Well, he was able to do it. I think it's up in the air how this third one's going to go, though. You know, just thinking back to the way the game 2 played out, we said just a few minutes in, it looks like State could already win this. It did require a few quick plays by Kasva where he caught State not paying attention. You said we've got another water hybrid map, right? I think this entire series is water-based.
I think it's Holy Island remaining, and that is the home map of Kasva.
Now, that is an interesting one, because the mistakes we just saw made, and by the way, I say mistakes, it is mistakes, but it's forced errors, right? Like, there's too much going on for you to keep track of everything.